Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to pull out the really key insights from, well, a whole stack of sources and make complex stuff clear and useful for you. Today, we're tackling this idea. It's captivating, but also, honestly, a bit unsettling. It's how even huge, groundbreaking success doesn't mean you'll last forever. It's almost strange, right? So many companies, they hit it big with some major innovation, think that's it, they've cracked it, and then they stop innovating. So our mission today for you, our listener, is to really unpack the lessons from businesses that were brilliant, truly brilliant, but then stumbled because they didn't adapt, didn't evolve. Think of it as a boardroom masterclass, but looking at failure to learn what not to do. Really practical stuff for your own strategy, or maybe for a board you advise.
That's right. Change is, well, it's just constant, isn't it? And innovation drives that change. What's really fascinating is digging into why some of these huge names just couldn't handle it. We're pulling a lot today from one source in particular, 50 examples of corporations that failed to innovate. It's a really insightful look at these kinds of missteps.
Absolutely. And it kicks off with this pretty stark warning from Phil McKinney. He's the CEO of Cable Labs. He says, without a robust and resilient innovation strategy, no company can survive. That hits hard. But as we're about to see, the examples really back that up.
It really poses a key question, I think, for any board, any leader. What exactly went wrong? What were the core mistakes that brought down these giants? So we've sort of grouped these failures into categories. The goal is to give you practical takeaways, ways to spot these danger signs, and, hopefully avoid them.
Okay, let's get into the first one. This is maybe the most, tragic. Being so caught up in your past success that you just deny disruption is even happening. It's that fear, right? The fear of cannibalizing your own golden goose, even when you're the one holding the next big thing.
It really is ironic, isn't it? So often the pioneers, the ones who invent the new technology, are the ones who just can't bring themselves to fully embrace it. They've got the future right there, but today's profits? They're just too blinding.
And the first example is almost legendary. Kodak. I mean, for decades, they were photography film, period. But their own engineer, Steve Sasson, he invented the first digital camera. Way back in 1975.
Yes, 75. And Sasson apparently remembered management saying something like, that's cute, but don't tell anyone about it. A former VP, Don Strickland, was even more direct. He said they couldn't get approval to launch it because of the fear of the effects on the film market.
So this wasn't just sticking to what you know. It was active suppression of their own future. Just devastating.
And Kodak, this giant, filed for bankruptcy in 2012.
Yeah.
So for a board looking at long-term strategy, this is terrifying. It asks, are you right now maybe burying the very thing that could save you later, just because it might hurt this quarter's numbers?
It's a powerful lesson in managing that internal conflict, that tension between the present and the future.
Okay. Kodak's story is pretty infamous for being short-sighted. But what about Xerox? They didn't just have the future. They basically invented a huge chunk of it with the personal computer and then kind of just let it go. The Xerox Alto. Right, an incredible machine from Xerox PXC. Graphical interface, mouse, stuff we take for granted now. They had it way back then.
Ahead of its time.
Totally. But management, they thought going digital would be too expensive. The CEO, David Kearns, was reportedly convinced the real money was always going to be in copy machines. They just couldn't grasp that, you can't keep perpetually making money on the same technology. They saw themselves as a copier company, full stop.
And that's a really interesting point. For anyone building strategy, how do you even start to rethink your core business when it feels so successful, so are you?
Yeah.
Sometimes the biggest opportunities are staring you in the face, but only if you're willing to ask, what business are we really in?
Exactly.
And then there's Nokia, remember them? Late 90s, early 2000s, they absolutely dominated mobile phones. They were pioneers.
Oh, yeah. They really defined that early mobile era. But then, like you said, the iPhone arrived. James Surowiecki at The New Yorker nailed it, I think. He called it a classic case of a company being enthralled and, in a way, imprisoned by its past success. Nokia really underestimated software. They underestimated the shift to smartphones. They were apparently afraid of alienating current users if they changed too much.
So they kept tweaking the hardware.
Right, while the whole game shifted to software, apps, user experience. By 2008, when they really tried to pivot, the train had already left the station.
It raises that question for you listening. Is your company's current gold standard actually becoming a kind of gilded cage? Is it stopping your leadership from seeing, or maybe acting on, the next big shift.
It's a vital perspective for any board, especially when a whole new way of doing things appears on the horizon.
Okay, so we've seen how that internal fear, that focus on the present, can really paralyze companies.
Yeah.
But what about when the failure isn't internal fear, but more like just not seeing what's happening outside? Misreading the market, ignoring what customers actually want.
Exactly. This is about listening, right? Listening to those quiet signals, those little trends, maybe more than your own internal assumptions or what worked last year. Boards really need that outside-in perspective to catch these shifts before it's too late.
And Blockbuster is such a prime example of misreading things. At their peak, maybe 2004, they seemed untouchable. Physical stores were king. But back in 2000, Reed Hastings from Netflix apparently went to them, proposed a partnership, let Blockbuster run the online side.
And the Blockbuster CEO, John Antioco, reportedly just dismissed it, called Netflix a niche business.
Wow, a niche business.
Yeah. Forbes put it perfectly. The internet didn't kill Blockbuster, the company did it to itself. They clung to the leadership of the physical rental world instead of adapting. Bankruptcy followed in 2010.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How do you tell the difference between a small niche that'll stay small and something that looks niche now, but is actually the beginning of the next big wave? That's a tough call for anyone planning ahead.
A very tough call.
Then you have JCPenney. You know, that classic American department store. They hit this massive identity crisis. The market changed, and they just couldn't figure out where they fit anymore.
Especially under CEO Ron Johnson around 2012. They lost nearly $1 billion, closed tons of stores. A lot of that came from alienating their loyal customers with really drastic changes that, well, nobody asked for.
Right.
Today, yeah, they have online and catalog sales keeping them afloat, just about. But it was a huge strategic blunder that they're still paying for. They failed to adapt, and they lost their core identity in the process.
That identity crisis idea is powerful. It's not just branding. It can sink the whole strategy. So for a board, the question is, are your brand and your strategy actually clear? And are they aligned with what customers expect now, not 10 years ago?
Crucial alignment question.
And remember Hummer. Big, bold, Arnold Schwarzenegger driving one. It was a total symbol of power, wealth, maybe excess.
Definitely a symbol. But tastes change. Values shift.
Exactly. This massive gas guzzler getting, what, 8 to 12 miles per gallon?
Something like that, yeah.
Terrible. Sales just tanked during the energy crisis in the 2000s. And as people get more environmentally conscious, that symbol of power started to feel, well, kind of shameful to some.
Yeah, the perception flipped. It became a liability. The brand was shut down in 2009. It just didn't fit with where society was heading.
It's a really stark reminder, isn't it? What's seen as a status symbol today can be a huge negative tomorrow if it clashes with changing values. Boards need to keep an eye on those broader cultural shifts, not just market data.
Absolutely. The cultural context matters immensely.
So the digital revolution, we know it's just relentless. And companies that just dig in their heels, even if they have loyal customers, they often get swept away. Which brings us to failures in adapting to tech shifts and new business models.
And what's interesting here often is that companies sometimes have the tech or they see it coming, but they just lack the organizational willpower to actually pivot.
Inertia.
Yeah, that internal inertia. Or maybe it feels like betraying the old model that worked for so long. That can be the biggest hurdle.
BlackBerry. Huge success story starting in '98. That keyboard, the security.
Yeah.
They totally changed business communication.
They really did, but then the market shifted big time towards bigger touchscreen displays, towards user experience, apps.
And BlackBerry.
They were reportedly more concerned about protecting what it already had. That meant the keyboard, the hardware advantage. They just didn't pivot fast enough or fully enough to the software-driven world. Eventually, they had to exit smartphone manufacturing altogether in 2017, just focusing on software.
So it makes you ask yourself, are you maybe protecting a hardware edge while the world goes software?
Oh, yeah.
Or vice versa? Or a physical product when everything's going digital?
For boards, it's about constantly asking, where is the value really being created now, and where will it be tomorrow?
Borders. Another name, another bookstore chain that was huge for years, but they just completely missed the boat on the internet, and especially e-readers.
Yeah. Amazon launched the Kindle in '07. Barnes & Noble came out with the Nook in '09. Apple's iPad hit in 2010. Borders. Their e-reader, the Kobo, didn't show up until 2011. It was just a little too late.
And their strategy.
Their strategy of opening loads and loads of physical stores really hurt them. Made it super hard to cut back when people started buying online. They filed for bankruptcy the same year Kobo launched.
So what's the lesson there? Sometimes your biggest threat isn't your direct competitor down the street. It's a whole new channel, a completely different way of doing things.
Right. Boards need to look wider. Look for those paradigm shifts in how customers get what they want.
Even Macy's, America's biggest department store, over 100 years old, they got caught too. Apparently, way back in 1980, someone pitched them an idea, a cable TV channel selling their stuff.
And Macy's said no. They were convinced people wanted the traditional store experience. That's where the value was in their minds. Shortly after, QVC launched, bringing the store to them via the QVC channel. It tapped right into that desire for convenience, for shopping from home. Macy's is still struggling with declining sales decades later. It shows that even a century of history isn't enough if someone else offers more convenience.
That's powerful. Convenience can trump loyalty. Boards got to constantly think about access, about meeting customers wherever they are.
Reduce friction.
Okay, so it's not always about big tech shifts or market earthquakes. Sometimes companies just get comfortable, complacent, or they just make bad strategic calls.
Right. This is about that tipping point, isn't it? When does confidence become arrogance? When does sticking to your guns just mean you're stubbornly holding on to something that's already fading?
MySpace. Remember MySpace? For a while, they were social networking.
Oh, yeah. The dominant player.
Get this. In 2005, Mark Zuckerberg apparently offered to sell Facebook to MySpace for $75 million.
$75 million. That's peanuts now.
Right. And the MySpace CEO, Christy Wolf, said no.
Ouch. MySpace just got complacent, the source says. They never innovated. Users started leaving, partly because that initial anything-goes vibe became less appealing compared to Facebook's cleaner approach. They just stopped evolving.
It shows that missing a big opportunity, one that's right there, can be just as bad as actively resisting change. For a board, maybe the biggest risk sometimes is inaction. Failing to grab an opportunity when it's presented.
Definitely. Paralysis by analysis or just plain missing the boat.
And the sharper image. They built a huge business, like $760 million, mostly off one product. The Ionic Breeze air purifier.
That was their star, their cash cow.
But they got way too dependent on it. So when consumers' reports raised questions about its safety and effectiveness.
Boom. Massive returns. Because they hadn't really diversified, hadn't adapted their strategy, they were incredibly vulnerable. The source notes they made a lot of strategic missteps, basically staying the same while the world moved on. Bankruptcy hit in 2008.
It's such a clear warning for boards, isn't it? Relying too heavily on one single product, no matter how amazing it seems, is a huge risk. Diversification isn't just jargon. It's about building resilience.
Absolutely. Don't put all your eggs in one sharper image basket.
So beyond markets, products, complacency, sometimes the rot goes deeper. Organizational problems, leadership failures, even ethical breakdowns. These can be the most damaging failures of all.
Yeah, and connecting this back for boards, it really highlights how crucial good governance and ethical leadership are. You can have the best ideas, the best tech, but without integrity, without a healthy culture, it can all fall apart.
Look at Enron. Fortune magazine named them America's most innovative company for years. They were into online trading with Enron, online broadband networks, seen as total visionaries.
Trailblazers, yeah. But the CEO, Jeffrey Skilling, as it turned out, had been hiding the losses from these ventures. Creative accounting, to put it mildly.
Very mildly.
When Ken Lay took over, suddenly a $137 million loss pops up. The whole thing was a house of cards built on deception. Bankruptcy in 2001, criminal investigations, Arthur Andersen, their auditors, convicted. It was a massive failure of leadership and ethics, fundamentally.
It's a grim but vital lesson. Innovation without transparency, without ethics, it's unsustainable. It's just fraud waiting to be discovered. For boards, integrity has to be non-negotiable.
Absolutely foundational.
And our last example, General Motors, GM.
Yeah.
The biggest car maker in the world for decades, right? From 1932 to 2007, a true giant.
An absolute titan.
But they ended up facing the largest bankruptcy in American history back in 2009.
And the analysis suggests leaders there only cared about making a profit. They chose not to invest in parts or products that were reliable. They actively avoided new technologies that could have improved quality.
The Harvard Business Review said they were too slow to innovate and too bureaucratic.
Yeah. That intense focus on the next quarter's profits, sacrificing long-term investment in quality, in innovation, it just hollowed out the company, created unreliable products and a model that couldn't last.
It's a textbook case study for every board out there.
Yeah.
Chasing short-term profits at the expense of the long-game quality, innovation, customer trust can lead straight to disaster,
Yeah,
cutting corners until there's nothing left to cut.
a very hard lesson.
So after all these stories, what does it all mean for you listening? Kodak, Blockbuster, Nokia, GM. It underscores this powerful, maybe uncomfortable truth. Innovation isn't a thing you achieve. It's not a destination. It's a continuous journey. You never really arrive.
Yeah, and the common thread, if we pull it all together for boards and leaders, it's often that internal resistance, that fear of messing up today's success, or just not reading the signs, not seeing how the world is changing around you. It takes real vision, real courage, and just a relentless commitment to adapting.
The sources couldn't be clearer. Every single board needs a solid, resilient innovation strategy, not just to get a by, but to actually thrive. It means being proactive, not waiting to react, and really getting your head around the fact that what made you successful yesterday could actually be the biggest thing holding you back tomorrow.
Which leads to that final, really important question for you to Taiwan. What are the sacred cows in your organization? What are those assumptions or ways of doing things that everyone protects, but that might actually be holding you back, or even leading you towards trouble? Or, flip side, what little niche idea are you maybe dismissing right now that could actually be the next huge wave, the next Netflix to your Blockbuster?
Lots to think about there. Keep those insights coming, keep questioning, and we'll be here next time to help you dive deep into what really matters.